Welcome to another episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? A weekly video podcast features creatives, writers, and readers, and we come together to talk about books. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of 4 novels and counting. I am so glad you're here. I think you're going to enjoy our next guest. Welcome, guys. I'm so glad that you decided to join us for this really cool episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I haven't done this before. I've had 2 people, but I've never had 3 guests at the same time. So if we like stumble over each other's words or something, I know you'll forgive us because this is like a first. I'm so delighted to have Kay Smith Blum. Hey, Kay.
Hi.
And Janice Smith Hill. They're not related. Hey, Janice.
Hey.
And Susan Lazader. Hi, Susan.
Hey.
And all of you. We're so delighted that you're here. So let's start. We'll just go around and starting with you, Kay, tell us about the book that you want to share with the audience today. Tell us a little bit about the premise of the book, on something about the protagonist. Tell us about it.
Okay. So I'm excited to be here with these 2 other novelists that have books coming out in the next few weeks. My story, my debut novel, is centered on the Hanford nuclear reservation that produced the plutonium fuel for almost every nuclear bomb in the United States arsenal, including the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. And hundreds of dedicated American men and women on the home front were responsible for this amazing, but ultimately very devastating scientific achievement. That plutonium production accompanied not just ending World War II, but it continued for decades through the Cold War, through the arms race, and slightly beyond. And what I wanted to do was tell their stories, personalize this huge change in our world, so that a few folks would become more aware of what actually happened and how this occurred, because so few people know about Hanford. And I think that the more people who are aware of that history, the better our conversations will be. One of the things that happened during my early ARC readings is Gary Gallagher, who's another thriller author at Black Rose Writing, was an early reader. And when he told me that Tangles personalized for him this little known time period, the way Rose and Jack personalized the Titanic, I thought, okay, that was gratifying. I'd hit the right note.
It's lovely. Just had brunch this morning with Frances Koch, who read one of your early readers as well. Yeah. She told me she enjoyed it.
Yeah, she gave me a lovely review.
Yeah. So, Susan, I'm so intrigued by the title of your book, Wine and Cereal. Tell us about that.
All right. Well, it's wine and cereal because when you're newly single in your 60s, what do you eat? Cereal. And what do you have with your cereal? Wine. So yeah, that's a friend actually suggested the title. This originally started as a blog, and it's a series of short, usually under 500 word pieces, humorous, that just kind of chronicle my life as I discover being 60 in my singles. I mean, being 60 in single, sorry. And it started out as a blog, as a therapy blog, and just kept growing and growing. And then I had an editor say, well, this is a book, actually 3 books. It's a series of 3. And so I worked on building my platform, which I'm sure all you writers know about. And then I was picked up by Black Rose. So yeah, and so there's a blog that goes with it, wineandcereal.com.
Cool.
And the first book is out. Volume 1 is out. Volume 2 will be out in November, and Volume 3 in March.
Excellent. Wow. Great. And Janice, you actually have 2 books to talk about as well, right? You
I
have
do.
a book of poetry and a novel coming out. So tell us.
I do. Thank you, Karen. I'm exhausted with having two at once, but I got to experience what that feels like. I was commenting to a fellow author the other day about I stopped counting Sandra Brown. I don't know if any of you read any of Sandra Brown's work. I've been a fan for years. I stopped counting at her fifth book out this year and was scratching my head saying, don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that. Two has been an interesting exploration. So the poetry aspect, I've been writing poetry ever since I can remember, way earlier than any other writing in short stories, which I've also published. Any academic writing, I'm well published academically at the university, and certainly novels. And it's a different process for me. Um,
Well, tell us about
Poetry
it, though.
has,
Tell us about the book of poetry.
right. So the process for me on that book was just taking poems that I've written over the years and updating them and collecting them. Very personal reflections, um, something for everybody to identify with, events that have shaped our history over the last many years, family relationships, all those kinds of things. It's very, very personal. Some of the poems are quite edgy. Some of them all of them are heartfelt, and they're there to be enjoyed. The title
What's
on
the
that,
name of the book?
yeah, the title of the book is Insistence, Persistence, and Resistance.
Hmm. Cool.
Yeah, we do all those things. So, yeah,
In, indeed. And is it true that you have a novel coming out as well?
yes. And the novel, this is my debut novel, although I have about 4 or 5 on the books right now. This one is called Vengeance of the Vanished Ones, Book One, to be followed by Book Two. To characterize it, it crosses many genres. I guess at its base, it's an action adventure archaeological mystery thriller with some romance thrown in. And the main protagonist is built on an actual, unfortunately now deceased family friend who is a well-known archaeologist, and kind of chronicles his work that he never satisfactorily found an answer to what he was seeking in this mysterious cave art, which is where the novel takes place for the most part in Baja, California. There are ancient cave paintings or rock paintings, as we call them as well. And we see Dr. Marcos Andersson, who's fluent in Swedish and Spanish, go down there on an expedition to get involved in finding out the mystery of the cave art, as well as unraveling the death, the mysterious death of his best friend and colleague, Dr. Davis Pierce, who was killed on one of the excavation sites.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the
So
vanished ones refers to, I was reading your mind, Karen. The vanished ones refers to the ancient civilization, unidentified, that Dr. Andersson credits with having been the artist who came up with the rock art, but no archaeological evidence left behind to prove his theories. So, with the help of a woman that he meets on his journey in Baja, a well-known psychiatrist out of Los Angeles and a psychic, he is able to finally not just look at the problem of the mysterious meaning of the cave art, but finally see the problem. And it ends with the cliffhanger of all cliffhangers.
Yay.
hey, it sounds very. So
Yeah.
all three books are sound very important to the times that we live. You know that you guys have all written about something that that is important. Um, as you were, one of the things that kind of intrigued me when Kay first talked to me about let's get a group together was that we were a group of seasoned women. Women in a certain season of our life, me being in the latest season of, of your lives. And so tell me a little bit, let's start with Kay. Tell me a little bit about writing after having a thriving career. I mean, whether or
Right.
not you wrote as a kid or because all of us,
Yeah.
start all of the time, it's sort of like,
Yeah.
okay, I've had this great career and now I'm gonna go do something totally different.
You must have been sitting in that tree with me when I read like 300 books one summer when I was in elementary school. I think that, being a voracious reader like all my life, one of my kissing aunts was a librarian, and I was surrounded by teachers because my mom was a teacher before she had my sister and I. I just saw all the different hats that they wore as women. And I think we do that almost inherently. And maybe because of that, doing something new is a little less scary for us than it is maybe for a man. I also think that for women, particularly me, writing is an outlet. We can work out how we feel about things. It's just like Susan just said, about her therapy blog. I think we can look at the way things have occurred in our lives and write that into our story. I know it served me well that way. I think it was Janice who said she had several things shoved in a drawer, that haven't been published yet, that this is going to be her debut novel. I have that same thing. And I feel like I worked a lot of things out in those manuscripts. And it's probably why I write across genre, a little mystery, little environmental thriller, set in a historic time, tossing a love story for good measure. I just think it's fun to try things that are new. And I think no matter what age you are, in fact, I think the older you get, the more you want to do that. And it certainly has
Yeah.
worked out that way for me.
That's a great example. And I too write in all different genres
Right?
because why not? Why not try
Yeah.
something new? Yeah.
Yeah.
Susan, what are your thoughts about, at this point in our lives that we're trying something new or being brave and putting ourselves out there?
I have a friend who said, we were having lunch a few weeks ago, and she said, I'm 74 and maybe I should be slowing down. But she's in the middle, like all of us, of like 15 different projects. I mean, I think not having to do a career at this point in our lives has certainly opened up more, more time for creative writing. Although I have always written, my background is in journalism and editing. So but it was more, business editing, medical, stuff you have to do to make a living. And I've tried novels, and I have to tell Janice and Kay that all of you, that I adore novels, and that's primarily what I read, but I cannot write them. They're just bad. They just are. So for me, nonfiction is my only option. And this started again, I've been married for 42 years and my husband left. And so what do? I write, right? I mean, that's what you do. And I just started
Yeah.
writing. And the humor comes naturally to me. My father was a very funny man, and my aunts were very funny. So I grew up, even though they grew up during the Depression and hard times, these stories were always funny. They were always funny. So you take, anyway, you can usually, in most stories, even death, you can find the humor in it. And when I find the humor in it, then I own it. Then I've taken that power away from it. I have the power over this story now.
Wow,
Nice.
that's cool. I have the hardest time putting humor in my suspense and, family drama and trauma books. And I've had to force myself to find ways. I so admire that skill to be able to use humor. That's so, Janice, anything different you would add?
I have just to say, for me, it's ditto what Kay said, ditto what Susan said, certainly. And, I'm at the time in my legal career that I would like something more creative. Not that law isn't creative, but a lot of time it is not. And I see it as my goal is to bring interesting topics to the forefront and maybe put a different spin on them or make them more readable.
Mm.
A lot of people, they read archaeology. Well, hopefully they read how I've presented it and to be instructive at this time as well. And let's face it, it's a good way to sit and lose yourself. Uh, and I write because it's cathartic.
Yes. Yep. Exactly right. Exactly right. So for you guys, what's the most, let's start with Susan this time. What's the most joyful part of writing for you? There's so many aspects to our writing. There's our research, there's the actual sitting down, there's the rewriting, there's, what do you find the most joyful?
When you find the exact right word or phrase, it's
Mm.
like, hallelujah. That, it's just, it is so rewarding. You just want to sit and pat yourself on the back and like, well done, you found it. It's almost like a mystery sometimes where I'll have a sentence and it's not right. It's not right. I get up, I leave, maybe 2 or 3 days later, it's like, oh, that's what I was trying to say. And those right words pop into your head. Mark Twain has a saying, the difference between the lightning and the lightning bug is the difference, or finding the right word and the almost right word is like the difference between the lightning and the lightning bug. I mean, it's just magic when you find that word.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Janice, what's the most joyful part for you?
Very specifically for me, it's being able to just write in a fluid way and not stop and overthink every word I'm putting on paper. I really had to
The
learn.
opposite.
I really had to learn how to be better at that because it is to stumble a lot. And then, next thing I know it, I'm losing my train of thought. So I had to get past, well, maybe that's not the best way to say that. And Susan, I think you might have been alluding to that as well as let's get it down and make it flow. And
Mhm.
then we'll worry about that later and go back. And when I was finally able to do that without beating myself up too badly, I went, I can do this, people. So very personal.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. Kay, what's the most joyful part for you?
So I write in the morning when I wake up, and true joy is the morning when I wake up and my head is like filled with what a character is going to do next. And my fingers are typing, and it's almost before my brain processes it. And I realize, oh, yeah, that's what this character is going to think or do next. And that's like the best. It's just, the scene just writes itself, and it really is the best. In many cases, the scene ends up in a way that I actually hadn't originally plotted, and then that leads me to the next step and the next step. So it's just a joyful time those mornings. But the
Yeah,
worst, you want to hear the
those
worst?
characters do take us wherever they want us to go, where we
I know,
didn't.
and sometimes you really have to watch them because they'll
They
get,
do.
they'll get out of their little character jail before you even know it.
They have minds of their own.
I know.
So this show is What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? So, Kay, what book could you recommend that you've recently read that you so enjoyed and you could recommend it to our audience?
So I've read an awful lot of wonderful stories lately, but the most recent book I finished just about 2 days ago. And it was Deb Coletti's Plan A. And Deb is actually a YA author now. I started reading her work when she was only doing adult novels, and then she switched to young adult. But this is a coming of age story that I think every reader, young or old, will really relate to. It's about a young Roman who has to take a road trip out of Texas, where abortion is basically illegal, to be able to obtain an abortion because of a rape. And it's a powerful, poignant read. I highly recommend it. Deb Coletti,
Wow.
Plan A.
Wow. Wow. Janice, how about you? Do you have something to recommend?
You bet. And it just happens to be one of our authors at Black Rose Writing, who I've had the pleasure to connect with. And it is the first book in what she calls her Desert Born series, book one, and it's called Desert Brave. A phenomenal piece of writing. Takes place around after World War I, in the desert, a long journey for a young woman who crash lands there, and exquisite writing, detail galore, and I'm so excited and proud for her. And it's Jen Coleman, Jen short for Virginia.
Oh, all right. How about you, Susan?
I think there's a series of 3 books that I have really enjoyed. They're by Richard Osman, and it's the Thursday Murder Club series. It's about this group of septuagenarians and octogenarians who, one of them is an ex-spy, and they solve murders at their assisted living facility. And it is so funny and so beautifully written. And it's often rare to find someone who understands how older people think and writes authentically about them. And I don't know how old this person is, but he certainly writes authentically about these older people.
Wow, that is cool. Well, you have gotten everybody totally interested in each of you. They want to know you, they want to meet you, they want to read your books. So tell us where they can find you. What's the easiest way for them to be in touch with you, to learn more about you, read your blog? So, Kay, where can everybody find you?
So my website, KAYSMITH-BLUM.com. It's got tons of information about my book and me, and just different things that go on in my life. It's an extended biography, and I think a nice interactive way. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and even TikTok, which I'm still trying to kind of figure out.
To check you out on TikTok. I'm terrified of it.
Welcome to my
Janice,
world.
where can everybody find you, Janice?
Thanks, Karen. Just a quick plug that I do write under a pen name, and that name is Lee Orlich Bertram, Leeorlich, and Bertram, Bertram. Lee Orlich Bertram Books.com is my author's website. I have all my socials linked up there. User friendly. There's an events tab that keeps everybody posted as to what I'm up to next. Right now, I'm doing book signings for the poetry book, and we'll combine those when the novel comes out in November. And tab for get in touch, email me directly, and I would so love to hear from everybody. Thank you.
Right. And Susan, how can everybody find you?
At wineandcereal.com. And you can write to, or you can just write to me, Susan at wineandcereal.com. And I would love to hear from all these ladies. I'm telling you, I think we have a lot in common and a lot of that we can offer each other.
Yes, yes. Well, I hope all of you are going to do that. Be in touch. And please, when you do reach out to them, tell them that you met them on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Until next Tuesday, see you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.